Thank you. Thanks for joining. You have a mic, all three of you. Thanks for joining. Just some quick presentation. So François, you're the chief designer, column trim at Renault. Sven, you're the vice president recycling at Veolia, and Jean-Paul. I knew I was going to do that. Sorry, Jean-Paul. Jean-Paul Michel, you're the executive vice president interiors at Forvia. So welcome to all three of you. So we're going to talk about. You heard the previous panel. So they made scope 1 and 2 seem easy, and now you guys have the tough job to speak about scope 3. But that was the plan. So for manufacturers and large businesses, scope 3 is very tricky. We've heard it later. Maybe, Jean-Paul, we'll start with you. What are the key challenges today that you're facing with scope 3 emissions? And clearly, what are you doing to address them?
Yeah, no, obviously, scope 1 and 2, I think you've seen the clear path that we have been able to put in place. Scope 3 is a bit more challenging, I would say, as we are dealing with a much broader context with supply chains and with products. So for us, specifically in interiors, we are talking very significant potential. We are consuming to the tune of 200,000 tons of polypropylene per year, for instance. So it is a key, absolutely key topic. It takes some broad effort, and that is a reason for this panel, because changing from virgin material to less virgin material has impact on the architecture of the product, on the fabrication, obviously, of the products, and it may also have an impact on the appearance of the products. And so it is a broad change in the entire environment, the entire ecosystem that will convey the ultimate impact we are seeking. So this is a journey we have embarked into. I think for the past, actually for us, for the past 11 or 12 years, we have been committed to transforming supply chain. We introduced naphthalene, for instance, in 2011. It was the first time on the street in 2014. So we have had some experience in this domain. We have done that at that time with a farming partner, Interval. It's a cooperative in the eastern side of France who's supporting us in developing the material, in developing the fibers. And now, obviously, we look at doing it at an even bigger scale, really attacking the core of resins with waste materials, with recycled materials. And this is why we have engaged in this relationship with Veolia about 1 year ago. We had started, I think our team had started with, working together much earlier to bring new formulations to the industry and to bring new feedstock to the industry. Mm-hmm. So this has been, in essence, our journey, our path for the past 12 years. With certainly an acceleration in the most recent months.
All right, so that set the scenes, but concretely, if you have to give like a couple of examples what you've done really on the field, tell us.
So we have created a new management entity. It was, we felt that we couldn't be successful by having scattered activities. We needed to have really a management responsibility embodying this agenda and driving it. So we created a dedicated material division in last September, actually. Four different materials, 4 different verticals, I would say, included in this division, corresponding to the main applications we have in Forvia. Number 1, I think I alluded to it already, resins. So replacement of our traditional polypropylene, possibly polycarbonates and so on. Number 1. Number 2, we are, especially in seating on the interior, a major consumer of leather. And so for carbon-related reasons, as much as animal-free considerations, we have embarked into the development of leather alternatives. Here we have, just as a side note, we have engaged in the financing to the funding of a startup, Ananas Anam, I think you can see it in the back room, using pineapple leaf fiber as a base for these alternative opportunities. Third domain, carbon fibers. Here, looking ahead at the requirements for H2 tanks in our clean mobility business. And finally, here more recently, the engagement to green steel. So 4 different verticals for different product lines, very different logic, very different applications, very different carbon substitution paths, but all very directly related to our application domains and our areas of expertise in Forvia. So this was done now. It has been incorporated under a new name, Materiact. It was made public a few days ago, and it will be located in Lyon. We have created a brand new dedicated tech center, and it will host about 400 people within a couple of years.
All right. So I think we have a trailer that sums up a little bit those key ideas. Let's watch it and we'll get back to it.
It's a race against time, a race for the climate, a sustainability race that challenges us to act and curb climate change. We frame everything through the lens of sustainability. We are acting with unique, cutting-edge low and ultra-low CO2 materials, bio-based, recycled, carbon-captured compounds, bio-based foils, low CO2 carbon fibers, and green steel, enabling us and the industry to reach net zero ambitions. From waste management to renewable materials, our entire ecosystem is mobilized to act. We have more than 10 years of experience. Our engineers, scientists, and researchers are working together to develop the best sustainable materials. From predictive and adaptive formulation to processes and applications in automotive industries and beyond. All of this to prepare for a better future thanks to sustainable materials. Use better. Use less. Use longer. This is how we act. We are Materiact. Materials acting for the planet.
Fantastic. Jean-Paul, just a quick word about plastics.
Yes, so I've said for us it's 200,000 tons per year. And obviously a major substitution opportunity. And this is really the cornerstone for the first activity we undertook, which was a partnership with Veolia, enabling us to really target 80% substitution of virgin by alternatives, being waste-based in particular, but also natural fiber-based as a time horizon.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jean-Paul. And we'll talk about this partnership with you, Sven, in a moment. But before that, we will like to get the perspective of the customer. So they are more than ever part of this net zero journey. We know that. And we saw it in the video, consume less, better, and longer. But when it comes to their daily lives, using their vehicles, for example, how far do they require sustainability? Let's take the example of inside the cockpit. So François Farion, you are the chief designer column trim at Renault. So what is your view on that, and how do you tackle this at product design level?
Well, it's kind of difficult because there is a trend and a request from customers to be more sustainable, be more mindful of the environment, and at the same time there are so many constraints in terms of changing energy, changing costs of ownership. But at the same time as well, we still need to deliver very safe vehicles, comply with existing regulations and things like that. So with all of this in the pot, it's quite easy to not to give up, but basically to follow and to say, well, we'll consider, we will see, etc. And actually, we have seen that, for example, the cost pressure was responsible for some of our vehicles to be actually less prone to be sustainable now that they used to be maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And actually, that relates to the cost of oil When the cost of oil was very cheap, virgin materials was so cheap that it was too tempting for project management to say, you know, we're not going to look at recycled because it's too expensive. So that's why it's very important first to have a dedication from a management and a company point of view, and I could not welcome more Forvia's effort for that, because they are a big tier one supplier for us, as they are for other OEM brands. And it means that because they have this dedication, they will find some solutions, some materials, they will secure you know, procurement and things like that, which means that it will be easier for us to push our mission with that. Second, I am a designer, despite the fact that I have a tie today, but which seems to be actually no businessman wears a tie today, so that's no problem. Design was always a push. I have young designers in my team, you know, they're under 30. They don't understand why we could not push more. You know, whatever the size and the heavy lifting that you need to do, it's very difficult to understand for them why we might be canceling 100% recycled fabric for €2.23. What's €2.23? You know, on the global scale of maybe a €45,000 vehicle. Of course, everything is important. We know. I mean, speaking and working in automotive, everything is very important. So that's where you have to step back and say, and that was the aim of a discussion, which is to say, wait a minute, in 5 years, you're going to tell your children that you went from 0% recycled to 100% recycled, and you canceled it because it was costing €2.23. So that's the type of discussion that is very emotional, that engineers hate. But this is how we got it through in that case. But that's where actually the company and the people working at the company have to take a little bit of distance and take some hard decisions on that, and maybe find the €2 somewhere else. Yeah. So, and we can
hard decisions, but also the question of acceptability. So what are the, how would you say clients' reactions and expectations? Are they ready to accept these new materials, you know, with potential impact on design? Are they ready for that? What do you see?
It's a difficult subject, because we, as designers, we are of course looking forward, and we see the trends and brands that probably are maybe not so big at the beginning. So, you know, we're regarded as, yeah, you know, but this is not for mainstream. This is people will continue to ask for exactly the same look and things like that. And we don't think it's true. We think that people have learned how to buy organic food that doesn't look as good as the non-organic food that was shiny, and the apple was like in a Disney movie, and it was incredible. You can watch yourself inside.
That's in the US. You've got wax on it.
Yeah.
We don't have that in Europe.
True. Yes.
Luckily.
And they're polished. Yes. So they accept that because they know that it's better for them, for their children, and that's okay. Moving to sneakers, we have seen some $200 sneakers made by either Adidas or Nike, not really small companies, that have claimed either that it was coming from recycled fishnets in case of Adidas, or that were kind of regrinding their own plastics, and with a very uneven, very new aspect. But every time it has been designed to be acceptable, to be new, and they found the customers. The customers followed them. So, of course, the customers are a little bit younger than typical automotive, where we have over 50 typical customer. However, it's the way we have to do. So, to sum it up, we feel that the problem is not the customer. The problem is what we feel the customer will react to. Because we have many examples where actually the customers have accepted. It doesn't mean that you have to do something stupid that doesn't look good or whatever, and we are here to help. But honestly, we feel that the problem is more in our own companies than in the customer's mind.
Jean-Paul, maybe a quick reaction to that?
No, I think for me it's a very important point because we, as we shift effectively from virgin, from the traditional economy, which is really an economy of repeatability, of elimination of imperfection, as soon as we start going into the sustainable discussion and replacing with sources, feedstock sources like vegetal, like waste, we're introducing more variation. We spoke together about, should we call it the marketing of imperfection? And how ready are we, as we enter the durable space, how ready are we willing as a consumer to recognize that maybe a vehicle could weather over time? I think we had the discussion separately, saying, okay, you would expect your leather armchair at home to take some patina, to take some weathering, to show some aging. After 20 years, it's pretty cool to have a leather armchair that looks different. Is it the same for our car seats? And if not, why? Why not? So I think these are some of the questions we run into. And I think we spoke about it. I think there was an experience, also we spoke about it, I think there was an experience in the US around seats that was not fully satisfactory.
No, yeah, but because, well, there's different things. There's the aspect that is slightly different from one product to the other. So that's what I was speaking about. And I think this is probably the easiest thing to do because people were used to have wood that is slightly different from one part to another, because this is a natural material, it cannot be exactly the same. So we have an example, in not so much, but a little bit in automotive, where we know how to do that, to say, this is the limit, we accept this, we don't accept that, but we accept a certain level of variation. By the way, I think the variation will expand a little bit to make it easier to get less waste, because the more you reduce the scope, the more you throw away things, and the scrap rate is increasing, cost is increasing. So we're going to try to do that. Now, for usage, it's a little bit different because how to accept patina or to accept something that is a natural aging of things is a little bit more difficult because we have been into that fast fashion that is like this.
We'll get back to it, but I would like to have your thoughts then on this. I know it's a challenge also for your company at Veolia. Probably your thoughts about that.
Yeah, well, do you want me to present briefly?
Yes, of course, feel free.
Just a few words about Veolia. We have three main activities: water, waste, energy. Similar in size, approximately, and you can see the geographical coverage, which is very international. And maybe, employees here, 220,000, that's what we have today. The turnover is from last day, because a bit like Forvia, we had a major merger this year with our competitor Suez. And so that also changed in similar proportions how we are now. And so we'll have an increase also in turnover in 2022 based on that. Maybe on the next slide we can see more about plastics, and so then I can answer your question. Here you can see what we do in plastics. So historically we are a waste management company and we've been doing that for more than a century. Starting in 2006, we've started to go into plastics recycling, which means transforming plastic waste into new material. And today we have nearly 40 plants that are located in Europe and in Asia, and we have projects in other geographies. But that's where we are operating today, producing about 500,000 tons of plastic. And a comment to 200,000 consumption for Forvia, 500 seems a bit small compared to that, but it's actually one of the biggest productions that a company does. We are one of the leading companies in that area. So it's really an area that's consolidating today from technology, but also in terms of volume. We go from small family-owned companies to industrial facilities. So that's a huge change that's happening since the beginning of this century, since the years 2000. Mm-hmm. So about imperfections, yes, I'm happy to comment this. First of all, we claim we do a very good job and we are able to do good material. It's a kind of a trade-off between the energy you put to improve your material and the quality of the material. And that's a trade-off between CO2 that you will consume to do your recycling and the quality and the imperfections. Now, I hope, François, you will be able to really convince your clients that imperfection is something good. We have seen this in packaging already. Today, you can see on your shelves some gray bottles, for example, made of plastics that would not have been possible some years ago. And it's a sign of recycled products. And I think people start to get confident that these bottles are as safe as other ones, but they are recycled, and that's why they are gray.
Mm-hmm.
Or less transparent. Slightly less transparent. And,
yes.
That's
and we had the same thing with recycled paper some years ago for those who already were there to use paper, which we don't do so much anymore. But it had to be imperfect to show that it's recycled.
All right. But Sven, maybe a quick word about the partnership. So how are you guys working together?
Yes. So we have signed this partnership this year, and we are very, very proud about this. It's the only in that kind we have done, and the target clearly is to be able to include 30% of recycled plastics in a car. So that's very ambitious. But more than that, it's interior parts, it's visible parts. Before that, we were already producing plastics for the automotive, but it were hidden parts and outside with no problems of odor, no problems of aspect, etc. So that's really the, a huge ambition that we have. So it's a two-phase partnership. We are currently in the development phase. Our R&D teams are working together, and they are very committed to get this done. We are working on the naphthalene that you've already developed to continue this and to be able to produce these naphthalene products. And we are developing 3 other grades with specifications that are very ambitious and new. And so that's the current development phase. And then we will start next year to produce for Europe with a target to produce 30,000 tons in 2025.
Mm-hmm. Just very briefly about this collaboration.
No, for me, I think it's a fantastic partnership. For me, it's really, I think our teams are working very, very well together, and really we are opening new horizons in terms of material capabilities. I think Veolia brings an understanding of the feedstock that nobody has better than them, and brings an engineering set of capabilities that is very complementary of ours. So I'm really confident we're going to be able very, very quickly, and actually the first results are coming soon, we will be able to offer a portfolio of formulations unique to the industries and really leveraging a global reach in terms of waste collection that is also supporting the quantity ambitions we have set forth.
Mm-hmm. And Sven, that was a question I asked in the previous panel also. So we speak about using less, using better, using longer. And so where are you in this journey?
I think we have been working a lot with packaging industry, and that's why I was taking this example. They have been the first movers for high quality recycled plastics some 5 years ago. And now we are changing, we are shifting to the automotive industry. It's a clear need. There are regulations that are coming up in Europe in 2025 and later, and there are voluntary commitments, in particular from Forvia, and that's really a new wave that's coming to produce these types of recycled plastics. So for us, it's a way to really go forward in that journey. It's a way to improve our circularity, and circularity has a lot of impacts on improving environmental impacts. CO2 reduction is clearly completely linked to circularity, because a recycled plastic, on average, in our business is 70% less CO2 than fossil, depending on the geographies. In France, it's even more because of our type of electricity. It's reducing pollutions. I think a lot of this has happened since we see pictures from the oceans with plastics floating inside, waste plastics. Giving a value to plastic waste, because it will be recycled, is reducing these impacts, the leakage of plastic waste into the oceans. And it's also a way to preserve our fossil resources. So there are these direct impacts that we are really happy to be able to develop with this partnership.
Fantastic. And we didn't cover one point, François, about the cost of sustainability. Can you tell us, do you think consumers today are ready to pay that extra cost?
It's always a big battle, of course, to do that, because first we have to recognize, especially for mass market, OEM, automotive OEM like we are, a mainstream brand, we cannot offer only 120,000 euro vehicles that will be perfect on the paper, but that nobody can afford. Or very few people can afford, especially in our environment. So it's quite important that we have to take care of that, and no wonder there are plenty of people taking care of that at Renault, so I'm not worried about that. The second thing, which is more difficult, is what is cost and what is value. And the value to the customer is not always where we think it is. And it's very difficult sometimes to put the value, because if nobody has taken, for example, an option to say, this seat with recycled fabrics will be an option that costs so much, then the value is difficult to evaluate. Will the customer be ready to do that? And you have to do it first to be able to assess. So we had to look in other industries, and we did actually a presentation on this to show that in jeans, H&M is proposing standard virgin material jeans, or 25% recycled cottons, or 100% recycled cottons, and the cost is different. So what do they sell most? I don't know, because I don't know H&M personally, but for sure there is a value, because there is sometimes 40, sometimes 50% difference in that. If you order your business cards on a recycled paper, it's going to be more expensive. But more than this, the problem is that if it was only that, it would be okay, because then we can prove that maybe it's happening. But sometimes, actually, like it is the case right now, where there is a lot of cost in the oil, sometimes actually recycled can be less expensive than virgin material. But because we are in a habit of doing this and we don't know, we've been dealing with oil prices for so long, and we are afraid about the recycled prices, sometimes we don't take the good decisions, we don't take advantage of that. So we need to push this, and there are actually some pushes to do this, not only for good environmental reasons, but also for cost reasons sometimes.
So what do you expect from a partner like Forvia? What can you say about that?
What we expect is clearly some support in the development, because we are in the development of the cars that will come in 3-4 years, sometime 5. And these cars will be different for sure. And if we don't have a solution now, if we don't have it in 1 year, basically they will look basically the same as what they have, because the choices are made, the materials are chosen, the suppliers are chosen, and that doesn't work. So that's why the sense of urgency that we spoke about, that's why I'm so happy to be here and to have been invited, is that when we installed the first 100% recycled fabric in the Renault Zoe, we had to partner with 2 different fiber makers and fabric makers, because it was so new that it was not so obvious. So now we see more suppliers coming to us with already made solutions, or even proposing us to say, this plastic was like this, and now you can get it biosourced. So that's what I'm expecting,
All right.
that support.
We are almost out of time, so maybe one quick question, final, and then we take your questions. What would you like to say to those who are starting their journey related to Scope 3? Any final thoughts, very briefly?
Well, I think for me, really the advice is really at the end of the day to be daring. I think we need to, I mean, the challenge is in front of us. I think we know the solutions. I think we need to dare to go for these solutions. I think that that is our engagement, that is our commitment, that is our journey in Forvia. And I think within a very short period of time, I think it drives so much energy within the company and outside the company, receiving similar commitments from partners. I mean, we see that with François, with Renault, with Sven and Veolia. I think for me it's a fantastic journey. It's very energizing for the entire organization and beyond. But we need to dare to take some of the risk. We spoke about risk in terms of acceptability. There are challenges because building these supply chains is not easy. Actually, as a matter of fact, making waste travel through state borders is one of the most complicated things we can do. But we need to dare, and I think we need to be true to the commitments we make. So that would be my conclusion. I don't know, Sven, if you...
Maybe Sven and François, very briefly.
Yeah, maybe as a final thought to elaborate on feedstock, that's what you were just saying. It's difficult today. Actually, there's a huge demand for recycled plastics, and there's not enough plastic waste. That's also completely new since we had COVID. But it will last for the coming years. So today we need to think on how we can source the feedstock. And we want to build a circle. We are all part of the circle. It needs to work at each stage. So we really need to collaborate on this. So maybe a new challenge, we did not talk about this, but for you at Renault, at Forvia in particular, is think about design for recycling. Because you need to in-source recycled plastics, but your cars at the end will also need to be themselves recycled. Otherwise, there will not be enough material.
2 words, François, not more.
Time out. So I will leave a field for...
Open for questions. So there you go. Then we stop here. Thank you very much. Stay with me. Thank you.